Episode 5.
Episode number 5. This one's a little bit different. The setting is a little bit different, but we
Where we at right now?
literally day after, I guess. Yeah, day after.
Yeah,
'Cause
I'm losing track of time.
Day after Rocky Raccoon 100 miler. We're in Round Rock, Texas.
Yeah. Finally recovered. We were gonna do this. We planned on doing it last night, I believe.
We were gonna do it right after the race.
Yeah, that slept a little bit, but it wasn't really sleep, so it didn't help much.
No, wasn't sleeping.
We're here now, though.
But we are here. We want this to be as raw as possible. We didn't write a script. We didn't premeditate really anything before. We're just going to go through exactly what happened. You can kind of tell your story from the beginning, and I'll kind of try to lead the conversation just to spark your brain a little bit. But, all right, Rocky Raccoon, 100 miler 2025. We started out. How'd you feel the day before? Like preparation-wise, do you think that you prepared a little bit better this time versus the last race, the Shawnee Hills 100, in terms of like fuel, everything we brought that day? How'd you feel?
Yeah, great. I mean, the preparation for Rocky this time was definitely a million times better than the first race that I'd done at Shawnee. I felt like nutrition was good. I didn't deal with any like heartburn or anything. At Rocky, also chafing and blisters. I mean, I have a couple of tiny blisters, but nothing really. And my feet look great compared to what they looked like last time with the blister on my foot. And then chafing, I mean, just a little bit around the thighs, but it was nothing crazy. Preparation wise also too, because I mean, I think you could look at this race knowing that I DNF'd at 85 and think that like I wasn't as prepared like training wise as I was last time, but I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
I think I was more prepared this time than I was for Shawnee. I think I just pushed my body much harder than I did at Shawnee.
Yeah.
And it kind of it caught up with me at mile 75.
We'll get into that a little bit later, but
yeah. I know. You said night before. I was a little bit nervous. I think I told Taylor that. I think I told you that.
So the night before, we went by and we did packet pickups. So we went by at like 4 p.m. and picked up your packet, kind of got the lay of the land. We set out all of our camp. So like we set up the tent. We set up like all of the water. We put a few of the chairs out there. That way we didn't have to do it the next morning. For me, I mean, even watching, like even that day, it all kind of starts to set in because like you take flights, you drive 12 hours to be here, and then it's like, wow, we're here.
Yeah.
Like this is
the day
it's
before.
time.
The day before is always when it hits because it's like, shoot, whenever I wake up, I got to run 100 miles. So it gets real at that point. Everything before then is like, it's all cool. Like it seems cool. Whenever like you're thinking about it, you know, like you're training, like you're gonna run 100 miles. That's dope. But then day before, it's like now you're gonna feel it.
All right, let's get straight into race day for people. I know that the morning for me, and I'm not even the one racing, but like when you wake up and it's pitch dark outside,
it's always the same vibe.
You can hear everything. We've said it before, but the vibe is eerie.
It is. It's quiet, it's dark, no one's awake.
How'd you sleep?
I slept pretty good.
Actually, this time?
Yeah, I mean, I slept better than last time. I think with races like this, getting like great sleep is like, I mean, that's kind of out the window.
Yeah.
Like you're nervous, but for what I got, I was happy with it. I got 6 hours. First time I'd gotten 3, so I took that as a win. My sleep score was pretty good, but yeah, no, morning of, it's dark, no one's awake. We woke up at 3:15, I think. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of tired then still too, but like nerves are running. So I mean, I woke up pretty quick. Ate breakfast. We got everything together. Got in the car and headed there. I think the car ride there was. That's when it really hit.
Same for me. I'll be honest, sitting in the back, I got chills. When you played Was it Furthest Thing
Yeah,
by Drake
it might have been
with Jay-Z? Or what song is that?
the one with JC.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm gonna forget the name.
Is it Furthest Thing? Regardless. I don't know why, but that song just hit, and I got chills.
Yeah, you're just. It was good though.
I think 'cause you just know how long the day is going to be for
Yeah.
everybody. I think you get chills because you know what side of everyone is about to, not to be super dramatic, but you do. Like when everyone gets really tired
Yeah,
and mad and hungry.
knowing the feeling, like that is what makes it nervous. But I also said too on the car ride there, I feel like the first 20 / like 40 miles, like that's not really like the hard part. That's not like that's not when the race begins. You know what I mean? Like the race doesn't really start whenever you cross like the start line and like you're going for mile 1, 20, 40, whatever it may be. The race starts. I believe whenever the night comes.
Yeah.
But we can talk about. You want to talk about like first loop, or you want to talk about like start?
Yeah. We'll talk about start. Like, so they pretty much take everybody. How many runners were there?
471 whenever we started.
And you just put everybody in this like
Confined.
like group, and then like this little square essentially, and everyone has their headlights on, and it's morning, it's still dark outside, and everyone's like has some people have like the little light across their waist, and people are yelling, and there's bells going off. They're playing a little bit of music in the background, and then they have like the start line like arch right there that everyone runs through,
with
and then
with the timer there.
The timer's right there. A bunch of people have their phones out, and it's really
that was a cool feeling.
Yeah, that's the second time I've experienced it watching it, and it's really interesting because it's like eerie and really quiet leading up to the start, and then it starts and everyone's like really loud, but watching it, dude, everyone goes from being loud to like, I'm not gonna lie, it gets quiet again. And I think it's because everyone is like, one, everyone's tired, but two, I think it kind of sets in at that point of like how long the day is going to be from that point on.
Well, this is kind of off topic, not really, but it was funny whenever we started. Whenever they counted us down, right after they counted us down, I have the video on my phone. Like someone next to me is like, "What do I do this to myself? I do this to myself every time." And you're just like, I looked over, I said, "Me too, brother."
Yeah, you do wonder watching. I think that question comes up probably 1,000 times.
Yeah. Why do I do this to myself?
Yeah, so describe, now it's you really. We go back to the camp, and at that point, we're trying to figure out our next meals, to be honest, because we were just, our thought process was like, we have to eat now and get all of our stuff now, so we're good for you later when you really need it. But what was your first loop like?
Yeah, I'll remember, I'll say this now, I'll remember everything through mile like 40, 50, and then it's kind of spotty.
You'll need help.
Yeah. The first loop, so it's mile up until mile 20, and there's 4 aid stations. So you leave the start line, you go to the first aid station, which is 4.1 miles away. Then you go to the next.
Can you describe the track just so people, like someone would understand? Because if I had never watched ultras, I wouldn't understand. It's 4 aid stations and a 20-mile loop, and you do that 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay, and now you're on the first aid station. You said how much to the first one?
4.1.
Okay, 4.1.
And then 5-ish to the second, 5-ish to the third, and then almost 6 to the fourth. But yeah, no, whenever we first started, it was super slow in the beginning, obviously, because it was 470 runners. So everyone's like piled up, like kind of like right next to each other, and you go out, you cross the road, and then you get onto the trail. So whenever you get onto the trail, it's not that wide. It's enough probably for like 2 people to run side by side. So it was super jammed in the beginning. I think we were all like trotting, but we were probably moving at like a 12-minute pace at the very start. So it was a little bit slower. And that was until the first aid station, which was like 4 miles away. But in like the first 4 miles, like right whenever we left the starting line, I started talking to this one kid that was right beside me. And like, I was asking him like how old he was, like how much or if he'd ever done a 100-mile race, like things like that. It was his first time. And then another kid came up on us and we started talking with him. It was his first time too. And then that's whenever Jason came up and started talking to us too in this 4 miles. And
so you weren't even talking to Jason yet at this point.
But it was in the first 4 miles of the race. Jason came up behind us, and this is how I knew that like running with Jason would be fun, because whenever Jason came up, we had asked him like what his time goal was, and he was like sub 24, and I was like, oh shit, no way, me too.
Sub 24 hours, so complete the race in less than 24 hours.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, me too. And then like we can stick together or whatever, and started talking about like what we are gonna do, and he's making jokes about like playing Minecraft like while he was out there running. So I just knew he was a funny guy, like high spirits, that kind of thing. I knew he'd be good to run with, and we stuck from probably, I think that was like 2 miles in to the race until the very end, which was cool. Jason was awesome, dude.
You should probably drop in here too the comment you told me about you're glad Jason ended up being the guy that like you thought he was, because that was actually a great point. I didn't even think about it. It's like if you choose the wrong person to run,
that'd be terrible.
100-miler with, it could actually make or break your race. But he actually probably picked you up a lot more than we can get to that toward the end. But
I think Jason made the race a lot easier.
Yeah, and we talked about that as well, because like as your crew, like your crew is all disabled and can't run currently, so it was almost strange that
I think it's funny though to point out this as well, that we talk about like God does like cool things, and like everything happens for a reason, and something always seems to like happen, like makes you like think about this kind of stuff. And people talk about like ultra marathons and like how it is like super spiritual, being out like on the course for that long. And I do believe that it was God. I mean, obviously I didn't have like a pacer, and somehow at mile 2 got Jason, and like super cool dude, didn't make one bad comment the whole time that we were running together, and was super high spirited. Like when I was down and like wasn't talking, like Jason was just talking the whole time, just being goofy as shit, like laughing, like just keeping the vibes high. You know what I mean?
Just shitting his pants every once in a while.
Yo, make sure Jason ain't watching this.
No, Jason's the man. He knows
he's the man. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, I was super thankful for Jason. But yeah, no, back to the first lap, because we'll talk more about that too. We got to the 4 mile first aid station, and this is kind of whenever it started to split up a little bit. Like you could kind of move ahead of people, things like that. But the first aid station, like I got kind of confused, because the first 100 I ever did, like when you got to an aid station, like you kind of took a second, you know what I mean? And this one, like they almost didn't let you. Like you got to the aid station, and they're like, you need water. Like they just grabbed your bottle and filled it for you, and they're like, here you go. And then you just went. So I didn't get to refill like my electrolytes or anything at the first one, which I mean I didn't really need to. It was a start. But
this was 4 miles in.
Yeah, 4 miles in.
All right.
They were kind of just refilling people's water and sending them back out. So that's what me and Jason did, and we kept running. But really, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to the first 20 miles. It was pretty easy, how the first 20 miles usually is, until we came back into the aid station.
And then the sun comes out, and even for people watching, like we're just pacing or watching the race, that usually spirits are high at that point, because you kind of got past like the morning of being tired and being up that early and making sure everything was taken care of, and you kind of feel like a little bit of weight is lifted off your shoulders. Like it finally started, 20% of the race is down, like we're in it.
Yeah. Well, I think the first 20 miles is also when like the nerves calm down, because I didn't mention that either. Like whenever I first started the race and like I was holding a 12-minute pace, like my heart rate was still like 150, just because I was like the nerves of the race are kind of weighing on you. But by the end of the first 20-mile loop, like you're good, like you're just chilling at that point. But I got to learn all about Jason in the first 20 miles. We talked about like what we both did for work, like why we were running 100 miles, like different things like that. I got to learn about, like, he just lived in Houston. Like he drove there the morning of, and just decided he was going to run a 100-mile race. He was like, none of my friends do this kind of stuff. So, like, if you ever run any 100 miles in the future, like, let me know. I want to pace you. Like, that type of stuff.
Yeah, he ended up, whenever he hit me up, he was like, I hope Drew ends up taking me up on that. And I was like, I would almost
I
promise
already
you.
told him that I would.
Yeah. But second loop.
First low point.
First low point, actually?
Yeah.
All right.
I said second loop. Second loop was probably the hardest besides, obviously, the final loop. But the second loop just sucks, and I've realized this now, which I can take with me into future ultra marathons. The second loop only sucks because you start in the morning whenever it's dark, so it's like still chilly. It's not hot. The second loop is whenever you're somewhat like in the hot part of the day. So mile 20 to 40 is whenever it is kind of hot. I mean, it was 75, but like you can still feel that whenever you're running.
Mm-hmm. Like
I was sweating pretty bad, and like the heat weighs on you for sure. Makes you tired.
Yeah, when you came in from the second loop, I knew.
Yeah. In that loop, like me and Jason talked a little bit. Like he talked more than I did, but I didn't talk much. Kind of just got through it.
You were still moving at a quick pace, though.
Yeah, I mean, we were still moving fast just because it's mile 20 to 40.
You had to keep a 15-minute pace to do a sub 24, and
Mm-hmm.
you were well under that at that point.
Yeah, because the first lap, I think we had finished in 3 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the second lap, we finished, I think it was about like 4 hours and 10 minutes, which is what my goal was for each lap.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was it? Did we have anything else about the second lap that we need to talk
No,
about?
the second lap, that was just hot.
It was just hot. It was
Heat.
kind of tough. Yeah. Third lap, I felt great. That was probably I think I said my best lap mentally. Mile 40 to 60.
Yeah.
Mentally, it was my best lap because the sun started going down. You could feel it, like literally feel a difference. I remember like asking someone that we passed. I was like, "Did that heat kill you?" They're like, "Did it?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was hot."
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "Yeah, it was brutal." Which I mean, it's not that hot, which is like crazy how that can affect you so much.
Mm-hmm.
But no, third lap, like we were laughing the whole time. Remember, I was telling. Whenever you're passing people, you're like, yo, you're doing good. Like, keep it up. Like, that type of stuff. Like, everyone's just super high energy at that point because it's getting cooler outside and you're approaching nighttime. So vibes were high everywhere, like even people that you're passing. That's when I got to talk to Andrew quite a bit because we kept passing him.
Andrew who?
Andrew Glaze.
The man.
Yeah, AM Glaze on Instagram, the guy. He's actually his method is the one I used with wrapping each of my toes individually and then putting that the gel on my feet to prevent blisters.
What's Andrew's thing? He like runs 100 miles every week for the last.
Yeah, he's ran 100 miles a week for the last like 257 weeks.
Absolutely
like
insane.
Yeah, wild. Yeah, he's crazy. But got to like pass him, and he's a cool dude. So that was fun.
Did you owe him $1 or something?
Yeah. Well, we were passing him at one point, and I'd already like said what's up one of the times because I wanted to I wanted to say something if I was going to pass him. But I think this was the second time we passed him. I was walking by and I was like, "You looking good?" And he was like, "Hey now," he was like, "You passed me, you owe me $1." And I was like, "All right." He was like, "Venmo works too."
All right.
And it was super funny. And then he ended up passing us again because he doesn't take super long at the aid stations.
Mm-hmm.
So we were sitting at the aid station whenever he passed, and that's whenever I think you got the video.
Yeah, we have that on video.
I was like, "Now you owe me $1" or something like that. But
yeah,
that was funny. I saw him again a couple more times. But yeah, mile 40 to 60, super fun. Felt great still. I mean, like the pain was obviously there. Like my legs, I felt it in my legs by mile 20, but mile 40 to 60, I mean, everything aches at that point. Like my hips were hurting. I get really bad pain on like the top of my calves, almost like into my hamstring, like the back of my knees, and then the tops of my foot, like in between my ankle and my foot. So all those were kind of sore and throbbing. Up until mile 60, and then I was taking Advil in between like each lap. I hadn't eaten much food from mile 0 to 40, and I think it was around mile 50 whenever I told you guys that I was starving.
Yeah.
And that's whenever you guys picked up food, but I'd gotten like the Pop-Tart and like sandwich and stuff from you guys.
Yeah.
That also made me feel good too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then we came back mile 60. I think that's whenever 55 to 60, it was actually starting to get dark. We had to pull the headlamps back out.
Mm-hmm. And
that's when the race actually starts.
Mm-hmm.
Mile 60, because now it's dark.
Again.
Yeah, again. You're going to feel good at that point, but typically it's going to start just getting worse and worse because you're going to get super tired. Like whenever the sun's been down for 3-4 hours, really starts to hit you.
Yeah.
You get exhausted. Like, and I'll get into that whenever I talk about getting to mile 80.
You guys flew from mile 60 to 70. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
And
mile 60 to 70 was our fastest 10 miles that we had done the whole time. I think we got to mile 70, and I told you guys, I was like, I think we did that in like an hour and a half.
Yeah. And the reason I know that is because this is where I struggled, because I told you that I would pace you. When you got to your 60 miles, it was like after your third loop, I told you I'd pace you, knowing that my foot was fucked up. But at the same time, I said I would.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was like, I said I would. So I kind of have to. And then you got to 70, and you guys were moving at that point. And that's when I was like, wow, no way I can't keep up with them when they just ran 70 miles. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I will say, for me, when I ran that with you guys, because compared to Shawnee, I thought that trail was going to be very, simple. Like, I thought we were just going to be running on dirt and pine needles, and it was going to be, like, whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then probably I ran with you guys for, like, 3 hours total, but the first 10 minutes, I realized, like, wow. I mean, dude, I do however many 12 hours of training a week, and the first 10 minutes, I think my heart rate got to, like, 150 something.
Yeah.
Going up the hills. And
which, like, that's another thing, too. Like, you'd seen from Shawnee, which had like 12,000 feet, I think, of elevation, to this having like 7,000 feet of elevation. It's like half.
Yeah. And
Shawnee was terrible. I'm not gonna lie. The elevation was insane.
Yeah. But
like this one, like I didn't think there was gonna be like barely any hills. Yeah. And like it still kind of sucked. Decent like it was more than you thought.
Yeah, it's like those like steady inclines.
Yeah. And
also the routes are
like
crazy. Hands. And the reason that I say this is because I only ran 10 miles and I got like and this is where you said that you hallucinated. You didn't even remember that I fell.
I didn't.
But I was like leading the pack, and my flashlight wasn't that bright, and one of the routes came up and just grabbed my ankle.
They do. And like this is I kind of wondered about this too before we started the race, because everyone had talked about the routes, and I'm like, all right, but like you can see all the routes.
Yeah, just
like, you can step over them.
No, them things are big.
There's like, and I hope someone that like may end up doing Rocky Raccoon like sees this and like uses this. Like there's like pine needles covering the trail.
Yeah.
So like there's parts where like it looks like pine needles, but all of a sudden like a
big old root
grabs your foot, and like they're not the roots that go all the way across. It'll be one root that just sticks up like that, and it'll grab you.
I hit one of those falls where like my shoulder and chin hit at the same time.
Yeah, that's bad. I don't know how I don't remember that,
because I got up so fast. No one said anything. It was just like, and that's what made, like, it's kind of funny looking back. Like no one said anything, and
probably
the reason
we
that
were both messed up.
Well, no, because everyone had fell like 94 times at that point. So you're just like, yeah, bro, that happens. That happens when you come out here. And I'm just like, low key about to cry and shit. My elbow. I'm like, I think my elbow's broken. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm like, I can't be a bitch. I've been out here 10 miles. They've been out here 70.
That's tough.
Yeah, but.
No, we both before that happened to you, we both had busted our ass twice.
Mm-hmm.
One of my times was on a downhill, luckily there wasn't any roots.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't like fall on a root, kind of like you said you did. But it was like on a downhill. So whenever I fell, like I kind of fell down and then I just rolled.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone was like looking back like, you okay? And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, it didn't hurt that bad. Like we're good. And he busted his ass one time and literally like dove into the bushes,
Mm-hmm.
which was not funny in the moment, but like looking back, it was
No, dude.
kind of funny.
I asked you guys, I was like, how many bodies do you think that these roots claim out here?
Oh, dude, I forgot about that too. In the first 4 miles, the very first 4 miles of the race, someone had gotten claimed by one of the roots.
Ankle, right?
Yeah, terrible. Like, it was bad. Like in the middle of the trail, like just bawling, and that was bad. We crossed that and we were like, that's terrible.
Yeah. So, all right, now
And he got injured too.
It did get injured. Yeah.
That's one of the
His
reasons
quad.
that he was out.
Yeah.
Because of his quad.
Yeah.
Where are we going?
I will say at this point, this is when it was like deja vu for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I started pacing you at 70 and we probably got to like 76, 77. And that's when you guys started asking me about how far. And that's when I started getting deja vu because like I knew that like you guys, like your perception of time and distance was so messed up. And you kept like asking it would be like every mile because you guys would hear my watch go off. And for some reason you thought it was just more accurate than yours. So you kept being like, how long? Till like the loop ended, and I would tell you guys, and then you would argue with me about how like it wasn't that far. But I would say 76, 77. That was the first time, and it's natural on a 100-mile race. I don't want to make it seem like you're complaining, but that was the first time that you were like, you looked up and were like, you had kind of stopped running every time we were like doing our running intervals, and because we kept like. I kind of liked how we were framing it. It was more of like let's just grab these small wins. And like every time we would run an interval for like a quarter of a mile or longer, we'd stop and be like, W, like that's a huge win right there. Like, cause then you just break it up into smaller pieces and we kept doing that. But it got to a point where you couldn't really do that anymore. And that's the first time that I heard you say like, you were like, dude, there's no way sub 24 is possible at this point because
I wasn't like I was trying not to like give the pain and like any of that like a voice because I was telling Taylor whenever I watched the Chad Wright documentary, like his big thing is not giving like your pain a voice because whenever you give it a voice, like it'll win. So I wasn't trying to say anything like I'm done or like anything like that. Like my body's totally messed up, which I think I said like I'm fucked. But it was more of like knowing at that point that like I could only walk and like thinking about it in my head like, all right, I have 25 miles left. If all I did was walk right now, like there's zero chance I make it under 24 hours. And like that was the goal. So that's what I think hit, and that's why I'd asked you that.
And at that point, like I feel like it was my job to be like, no, like it definitely is possible because I really thought it was. Like no lie, you were like 18 hours in, and you were about done with the fourth loop, so you had 20 miles left, and 6 hours, really about 5.5. But that meant that you guys
no time at the aid station.
No time at the aid station, and that would mean that you had to do the last loop the exact same way you just did the one before.
And I knew that I had ran.
Yeah, you ran
the
as much
first
as
10 miles, the 60 to 70.
Yeah.
The fastest that I had ran a 10-mile all day.
Yeah, and you couldn't really move at that point, and we kind of knew. But we got back from that loop, and the goal was to kind of completely recoup, I would say, and like really take some time at this aid station because at that point
I knew that I couldn't get sub 24. I was just gonna try to finish at that point.
Yeah, and that's when I showed you the video from Logan as well.
That was super cool.
Yeah, Logan sent a really cool video of just I forgot what he said, like this statement He said just
I remember.
He said just
Everybody
remember.
feels the same way. You're not special.
Yeah, you're not special. Like everyone feels pain, and I liked that perspective a lot because it's like, you're like, and I have no idea how it feels. Obviously, I'm just saying from like fitness experience, not an ultra experience, but like whenever you do hurt that bad, your brain does kind of try to convince you
Takes
that,
over.
yeah, that, and it's not like being a bitch. It's more of just like you're hurting bad, so stop. But that is its way of making you feel like you think you're like everyone else that's in that race or that event feels the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a really cool message. And he sent like a video message, and I showed it to you. And I would say it helped.
Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the reasons why I kept going to the mile 80 mark.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we came in there, and that's why I said mile 70, I was definitely out of it. So by mile 80, I was completely exhausted at that point. I think by mile 50 is whenever I said, like, I can't sit down at aid stations,
Mm-hmm.
or else, like, I'm going to be hurting bad. So, like, the mile 60 mark, I'm pretty sure I stood the whole time. I didn't sit down. Because if I sit down and, like, let the lactic acid build up, like, it's almost like my legs, like, don't work and they're, like, tight.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, whenever I got back from 80, I did sit down, which made it 15 million times worse.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting down and then started shaking. I think, like, just by that point, like your nervous system and, like, what do you call that? Your immune system and, like, everything else is, like, shut down. So you're kind of just, like, sitting there shaking. Like, I was kind of cold, but, like, your body's just, like, shutting down.
Yeah.
And, like, you're exhausted. Everything's on a 10, like, pain scale. And then, like, getting up even. Like, standing up out of the chair. You can barely stand at mile 80.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I tried to start walking again. I changed into all different clothes, like warm clothes, because it got cold again. And I knew that I was going to have to start walking. I was going to have to walk the last 20 miles. Started walking, and that was, the pain was much worse than it was at Shawnee at that point, at mile 80, in my legs. And I felt bad for Jason because he wanted to keep, like, with me. Because I think he wanted someone to, like, run with out there, especially on the last 20. And we had done, like, the whole thing together, so I didn't want to hold him back. But that first 4 miles to the aid station from 80 to 84 was super slow. Like, he'd get up, like, probably 50 feet ahead of me, and, like, I'd still just be back there, like, hobbling along with, like, my poles, like, barely moving. And we got to the first aid station, and we sat down at the first aid station to, like, take another second before we got up and started going again. But from the first one, so it was mile 84, we had gotten, like, a mile in, and, like, I could barely walk at that point. Like, I looked down at my watch, and I had seen I was 22 hours in, 22:30, and I had 15 miles to go. And I knew how my legs felt, barely moving at that point. I kept bending over my poles, just trying to give my legs, like, a second. And then, like, walking another 100 yards and then stopping again, like, leaning over my poles every time. And that's when I had sent a text to you, and then I sent a text to Taylor saying, like, I can't, like, if I keep the pace that I'm at that point, like, it's going to take me another 8 to 10 hours to finish the race. And, like, I don't, like, my legs couldn't do that. But I think the win from the race itself was knowing that I did go 75 miles
at a sub 24 pace.
Yeah. So I know now, which I texted my coach afterwards, and he was like, dude, that's huge. Like, that is a huge win, knowing that, like, your body can take you, like, 75 miles that fast. Like, that just means that we need to we need to like get back to work, like put in more volume, get faster, so that next time, like instead of 75 miles, your body can keep it up for 100.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference between Shawnee and this one. Is
Did you cry at all this time?
I told Taylor I didn't cry once.
I thought you did. Not bad. Yeah, I would say that like you kind of, from my perspective at least, like you took like not finishing really well. Like you took it in stride, knowing that, because I mean, like, dude, outside of this, like, we're trying to grow a business. We're trying to, you know what I mean? So if you're coming out of a race completely destroyed and you can't do anything else, I feel like that defeats the purpose.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to compete in the races, not just.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to sit here either and be a bitch and just create excuses for why I didn't finish. But I like the way my coach had described it. He was like, I'm not big on death over DNF, or I'm not big on death over DNF, which just means like some people do choose like death over DNF. Like I'd rather die than not finish. And like if that was my main goal in my life, was to go run 100 miles and complete the 100 miles, like it was the first time that I'd ever ran 100 miles, was just to finish it, then okay. Like, but if my goal is to run these like often, like Andrew does, he runs one like every other weekend.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying I'm going to do that because that's a lot, but like if I want to run more of these in the future and I want to run them and like be decently competitive at them and like run them fast, then I'm not doing myself any justice by going out and completely destroying my body. I mean, I already did, but if like taking it to 100 miles, like what that had possibly done to me, it's not worth being out a month or 2 months rather than being out a week and getting back to work.
Yeah.
And being able to go back out there at Bear Ranch and give it everything I have. Because instead of this time where I had 2 months with this coach, and I told my coach, like, dude, props, like, I believe that the 75 miles that I ran at a 22, 23 hour pace was attributed to like the training that I did with you. Like, and that was in 2 months because I got him in the beginning of December.
Yeah.
Like if we have another 3-4 months to build off of, like I wonder what we could do at Bear Ranch.
Yeah. Is that what you have? 4 months till Bear Ranch? What is it? May
24th. May 24th.
Yeah.
So about 4 months.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it'll be awesome.
What was your biggest takeaway from the race, would you say? Or have you not had enough time to reflect yet to understand?
I mean, I think a little bit more times I often need. But
I kind of figured that. I felt like this would be so fresh that it would be more just like telling the story again. I think that the lessons kind of come with time because you don't really even understand it until, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of lessons that like I could take into like actual like physical lessons that I could take into like Bear Ranch.
Yeah.
Or like ultras in the future.
Like tactical.
Yeah, like tactical stuff.
Like running slower paces, taking less time at the aid stations.
Yeah, you don't need as much time at the aid stations. But so I said, like I was telling you guys, I think everything else is perfect. Like a lot of people deal with like stomach issues during these races. Like my stomach, like at certain times, like nothing sounds good, but that's a given when you're running 100 miles. Like your stomach's not going to be perfectly okay.
Yeah.
You kind of just take what you can get. You eat what sounds good and you keep moving on. But I didn't have any like bad stomach issues. I didn't have to shit my pants. I didn't throw up.
I wanted to throw a little bit of my 2 cents in for a second from watching it, but
I can think.
I made a post on like what I learned watching you run the race, and I do use post as a way to like journal almost, just because it's a way for me to like just kind of reflect on experiences and times, and you can kind of use your page as a way to go back and look at it, and what you were thinking about in that moment in time and what you learned from it may be different a couple years down the road. But watching you guys, and this wasn't something that I even put in the post, but leadership wise, I think you learn a lot about leadership whenever you even pace or you're just a part of the race. And one of the things that I noticed, and I know a lot of people do this in ultras, but I wasn't going to do it the first time we passed, I'll be honest. But when you guys pass people, it would always be like, hey, 3 runners on your left. Right when we pass them, you guys would be like, you guys are doing good. Like, keep it up, guys. Like, keep crushing it. And they'd be like, thank you. But they would just be walking. Like, they wouldn't be running at all. And that's what was crazy to me. Like I probably wouldn't even have said anything if it was just me running by. But I think when you're out there for so long, I noticed that it's not that it's like a family, but it is almost like a tribal like type of thing where like you're out there suffering so bad with all of these people that it's like it doesn't matter what pace they're moving, even if you fly past them. Like there's guys that are way better than y'all that were flying past us, and these are like the dogs that were on their last loop when we were on the 4th loop, and they would even every time all of them are like, yeah, keep it up, guys. And they're literally like they're flying. And I think that's probably, even just experiencing it, one of the coolest parts of the sport is just the people and the environment and how much everyone supports each other. I think that it does show you what true leadership looks like. And the second thing for me watching too was I said in my post that like leadership is silent sometimes, because I think a lot of times, and even I did growing up, I always thought that leaders had to be like the person who was always like in the front of the line, like giving orders and like yelling out like what's going to go next, and always has to. But I think sometimes that leaders honestly don't even lead from the front. And I truthfully mean that. Like even us when we were out there, like if you're in the back the whole time, in my mind, a lot of times, I even said it as a pacer, it's not always like being out in front and being like, all right, come on guys, like let's go, you guys got this. Like it's more of just your presence, just being silent, because at the end of the day you know that like that person is out there suffering with you. And I think that that's real leadership, just putting yourself in the position, and people notice it. Like people notice the work. It's not always you don't always have to say something. But
I agree.
Those are my takeaways from watching.
Yeah, and it's super cool, like the community that it is, and hearing like everyone, because I mean that's what we did the whole time almost, probably from mile 20 to mile 70.
Yeah.
Anytime we passed someone, it was like, yo, you're doing good. Like one foot in front of the other, like that type of stuff. And it is super cool because people would pass you and say the same thing. Because people do realize that, like, you're still taking steps.
Yeah.
Like you're still doing good. I think one big, like, takeaway that I mentioned last time, but like, I mean, still, like, just the people that you have around you is super important. People that'll go out and help crew you. I think that's super important.
Yeah, Briley and Taylor held it down.
Yeah. I mean, dude, not many. I mean, you've seen, like, some people out on the course that, like, they're self-crewed. Like, they went out there, like, they're running by themselves at night. They're going to the aid stations and like using like aid station fuel and everything like that.
There's so many parallels with this sport and like real life. You think about that. A lot of times like you're sad, upset, frustrated with your situation, but you actually have, let's even say you have one person in your life that gives a lot of fucks about you and that calls you every day, that is worried if something like you're lucky.
Blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, really, it does put it into perspective.
Yeah.
Having amazing people around you to come back to. And
you needed food, and they brought you
everything I wanted.
Pizza, Whataburger, and all the other shit, and you didn't even eat it.
I know. Yeah, I know. I felt bad.
I'm just messing with you.
Sorry, Taylor. I know, I'm a piece of shit, bro.
No, but truthfully, like, I'm super thankful for the experiences to be able to just, like, be a part of it. I feel like you learn. I think it's really cool being around everyone for, like, such a long period of time. Like, you kind of just go through the trenches with everybody.
Yeah.
I think it was even cool for me pacing and being able to look up and see the stars. Like, there's just simple shit. It was a good experience. But
that's why I say all the time, like 100-milers relate with life so much. And that's why I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, everything can feel like it's going wrong. Like, your body's in so much pain. Like, your head hurts, your stomach hurts, whatever it may be. You're throwing up, your, like, legs aren't working, you know what I mean? You stub your toe on a rock, you trip and fall. Like, a bunch of little things are going to go wrong, but you get up and you keep stepping.
That's it. I'm curious how Bear Ranch is going to go because it's a completely different structure.
Yeah.
Just a 4-point whatever mile loop, and you just run it as many times until there's one person left.
4.2?
Yeah, you like don't know the end. I think that's crazy. I'm excited to watch. Just to be there, truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
But
that'd be fun.
That's it. Other than that, we did film everything, and we've been going through some of the film, and we're gonna try to have the YouTube video out by the end of the week.
I think that'll be just talking about it, dude. Like, whenever you sit down and actually talk about a race like this, it is so hard because it's 24 hours long, and like
it all kind of blurs together.
Yeah, especially whenever you're delusional and tired
Mm-hmm.
and in pain.
Yeah,
it's all hard to like get out and describe.
Mm-hmm.
I think, which I mean, we didn't get. I don't think we got anything from miles 75 to 80. Like
video wise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did.
Whenever I was real messed up.
Yeah, Bradley was videoing.
Like whenever you guys picked me up.
Oh no, when we picked you up at the very end, no, we didn't video that.
Yeah,
we were in the trenches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which like you might not get to see like what that looks like, but besides that, I mean, we have a lot of video. I think
there's video all the way up until
that's
mile
what
80.
I'm saying. Yeah. So like,
yeah,
I think that'll really put
in
what
perspective.
what we're talking about in perspective. Like people can actually get an idea.
Yeah. So that's episode 5.
Yeah.
Rocky Raccoon 2025.
We'll be back in regular setting next week.
Be back. Yeah. All right.